which I think, Daniel, might be one of the first times that we've seen him look like more than not bothered about everything. He always seems so cool.
I really appreciate how much he cares, and of course, you know, he may be somebody who I feel when he does interviews, he's quite open about how he feels, and you can see how much pride he takes in performing to the level in his mind that he thinks he can reach. I think it's not so much about what everybody else thinks, it's more about him knowing, okay, I've missed chances, like he said, and it's when you set your standards high and you want to reach a certain level in your brain and you know you're not getting there, it hurts deep inside. I've been there, I'm sure the two gentlemen next to me have been through it as well, and when you play this game at a big club like Chelsea, of course there's going to be critics, you know, in the fan base, outside noise, whatever it may be, but what I really liked about him is that he said he doesn't care about it, and of course it might slip through the cracks because you want to avoid it as a player and you don't look on social media and you avoid that stuff, but in the end there's other people that might be sending you a little one-liner here or there, and you're thinking, I don't want to see any of this stuff because I'm concentrating on me being the best I can possibly be, and he's very proud. You can see he's very proud with that, and you could see his teammates afterwards as well, how happy they were for him because they understand how hard he works behind the scenes. So I can't wait to see where he takes it, you know, in terms of his abilities, because he's an unbelievable football player, and all the top players in the world have gone through difficult periods in their career. So what he's doing now, I can't wait to see where he takes it.
They have all gone through difficult periods, but not necessarily in this moment, which, as he talked about, is not helped at all by everything that goes on social media. And you talked a little bit about how that could filter through to him, even if he's staying off social media. But I want to ask you about this with, you know, due age respect to Roy and to Jamie, because you are such a big presence on social media. How do you get that balance between staying in touch, using it for all the good that it can bring, and managing to kind of filter out the people who don't matter? Because a lot of people just go around trolling everybody, and so their opinion doesn't count. But that's a different thing to deal with logically than it is emotionally.
It's hard to navigate. You know, for me, I was somebody who didn't look at the comments, you know, because I feel like it's important to understand that you've got a core group of people that you have a lot of respect for and a lot of love for, but then also by the same token, you love the fans and you respect the fans and you want their adulation, but at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be kind. It's the nature of the world, and that's what the trolls are out there to do, getting a kick out of a reaction potentially. And I think for players, it's about saying blocking out the noise generally does mean not engaging in the comments and just trying to stay level, not getting too high. When, you know, you play well, of course, you're going to get 1,000 text messages and 1,000 posts are going to be about you and everyone's going to love you. And then by the same token, when you know you didn't perform well, when other people know you didn't perform well, you're going to get hit with stuff and then you're going to shy away from it. So stay level, don't pay too much attention to the comments or anything, and just focus on what matters most, which is playing football.
The one thing that hasn't changed, though, is the personality and the resilience to be able to come back from a difficult period, regardless of where that criticism is coming from. How impressed are you with the performance that Cole Palmer has managed to put in at the end of a difficult time?
I think as experts, you know, we all realise that, you know, form is temporary and class is permanent. I know it's a saying, but it's a fact with someone like him, because he's too good a player for it to affect him over that long a period, and sooner or later his form was going to come back. And you could just see it today. It was oozing out of him. This little one here, when he puts the handbrake on, then lovely bit of movement, and that was in 3 minutes into the game. And sometimes you get a good feeling for that so early into it. Everything was coming off for him. He played with real freedom. He was enjoying his game. His passing was good. He said he played a lot of good one-touch passes. He's helping his team, winning the ball back. They're the aspects, and that sometimes when things aren't going right for you, that's what you've got to do. You've got to go, right, let me be a different player today. Let me work hard for the team, and then things will then come off the back of it. And he always looks to play this pass here. Loved it. And that wasn't that one, it was another one. But no, this is the one. That first time one, beautiful in beside, you know, behind Tsimikas. That little touch there. Everything he did was just effortless today, and it was a real joy, I felt, Roy.
Do you know what? It's just that football intelligence he's got. He obviously needs runners there. We've seen some of his passing. You need people running off the ball for him. But his decision-making, many years ago, a great manager said, you judge a player when he's got time in the ball, and his decision-making, pace of pass, type of pass, when to go short, when to go long. This was brilliant play again. And again, he's got that bit of acceleration. And obviously, stop, go, bits at the end, that quality. And he's had But he's a tough kid. You don't get to this stage without having setbacks or dealing with disappointments. Remember, he left a brilliant Man City team. That shows how tough he is to come down to London to make his own way, because he wanted to play week in, week out. He's having a bit of a laugh there. And it's good to see young lads having a bit of enjoyment, of course. But they're under pressure. Nobody likes to be criticised. But again, he's one of these players you'd pay to come and watch him. He's that good. And his football intelligence, absolutely amazing. Brilliant to watch live.
And it's different now. It's just totally... When Roy and I played, the stick you would get would be from a newspaper column, or it would be maybe a phone in on the way home. And you'd listen, and maybe, some people saying how good you were, other people maybe criticising you. Whereas now what we've done is we've given people a window into your life by getting a phone, by getting social media. And when it's good and you've played well or you've done something great, you can't wait to read it. But there's that one comment that can cut you to the core if you're maybe just that kind of person. A lot of players, maybe they get their agents to do it or whatever. But I think what he said there was a great example to all young players. You just have to be so careful, because you're letting poison into your life. You're letting people beyond social media and just abuse you. So it's not always healthy, because I don't care how mentally strong you are, they could just say one thing that can just affect you, and it's totally different to say, and it's not just maybe your football, it's how you look, it's what you do. And I think that players have to be so careful on it. It's great to give them a bit of an example of how you live your life and a day-to-day, and that's fantastic. But the other side of it, when people have the ability to just abuse you whenever they want, that's not healthy for anyone, because it's already hard enough being a professional footballer. The pressure that comes with it, the best thing you can do a lot of time is just turn it off and just get on with being a footballer. That's how I see it anyway.
No, and as both Jamie and Roy have said, Daniel, the ability was always there, and that's maybe why, when he's been criticised for games and performances by pundits, there's never been a suggestion that his early season form would have been a flash in the pan or anything out of the ordinary. There was always a belief, certainly from people who've played the game, that he was going to come back to this kind of form.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top player. Last season was proof of that. And I think there's been a positional change. He was playing on the right last season. He's come into the attacking midfield area this year. Probably when you're playing in that position, I've played wide and understand the freedom you get when you're out there. You're probably facing the player a little bit more and you 1v1. Now he's in picking up different positions on the football pitch, so in turn it sometimes is more difficult with your back to play and having to actually help the team progress the ball forward, and you're not so much in those threatening positions that he was in last season, which is in and around the edge of the box. So I think this season, because of the slight positional change, it's harder to impact the game. So I do applaud him as well for actually having the capability, technically, tactically, to be able to say, you know what, I'm in a different position this year, and it took him a little bit of time to get his rhythm, but now you're seeing what he's capable of doing in that position as well, which is a beautiful thing to see. As I said, I really love his style. I love how he approaches football. He's a joy to watch, and long may it continue for him.
And what he has done, when you watch players there who he sets his standards so high, so his difficult spell is still amazing. But what he has as a football, he's got great courage, because we're watching there. He's making angles. He's wanting the ball, and if this is from a player who's having a difficult spell, then I take my hat off to him, because the key is for being a footballer and you're playing for a big club and there's big expectation, is the courage to want the ball, even when deep down sometimes you mightn't want it in tight areas. He's got that courage, and I take my hat off to him.
Football needs him. It needs players like him. In a day and age where the game has got a little bit robotic, where players will keep it simple, you don't see too many players, too many mavericks, if you like, that we saw throughout many years. It needs someone like Cole Palmer that just does things differently. When he gets it, it's just like time stands still. And I think he's a joy, and we need him, doing what he's doing.
And the hardest part of football, is making things happen. It's all right stopping players, but football's a class as entertainers, and he's an entertainer. We got to appreciate him.
Yes, indeed. And, we see here, we're talking about him starting the game here, but fantastic, the goal that they score here from him starting the playoff. Lavia's pass, though, in, taking out a few players, breaking the lines. Obviously, a little bit of a shift from Cole. And you see the enthusiasm from Fernandes to get in the box. He's got his hand up already. The cross is actually magnificent. We have to give him credit for that, to feed it into that corridor. The first touch is great on his weaker foot. That's the simple thing in football, that everyone, needs to concentrate on your first touch. Without that, you don't score the goal. So it's a fantastic team goal in the end. Yeah,
and great movement from Cole Palmer for this one. Not so great in terms of Liverpool's defending from this one. What's going on here, Jamie?
Well, Tsimikas, he feels like, it almost looks like he loses the ball initially, and then he keeps it, and then obviously does his little bit of skill, and then Virgil just gets in a complete muddle. And obviously hits his own teammate, which is just not ideal. But it's defending we don't normally see. It's uncharacteristic. It's just not how really Liverpool do things. but you can just see there it's just one of those for Quansah. He's had 3 games, I think, this season. He's only started 3 and he looks rusty. And when things like that, there's nothing you could do. That's just so unfortunate. But after that, he got into a little bit of a spin. It was difficult for him. But you get back into the game, and I thought once they got the 2-1 with this good header by Virgil van Dijk, you thought, OK, you could see that Chelsea were starting to get a little bit edgy on the back foot, sitting back. They might have got that equaliser. Big header for them.
Interesting, quite similar to the Leicester game in which Van Dijk was involved in the own goal and then went up and scored at the other end. But it was a penalty that put Chelsea beyond reach in this one, because there were chances for Liverpool in the latter stages of this game. But this, as you said, Jarell Quansah had looked like he was spinning.
Yeah, listen, he's had a tough day. Sometimes you bring in a couple of fringe players and you realise why they are fringe players, you know, there's a reason. But again, credit to Chelsea, they're sprinting after him. They're obviously in the last few minutes of the game, and then again, if you want anybody taking a penalty, cool as you like. Palmer never in doubt against a really good goalkeeper, dives the right way. 2 goalkeepers wouldn't have saved that. Brilliant.
So here's where we are as we head into the final 3 games of the season for everybody bar Nottingham Forest, who are at Crystal Palace tomorrow night. These are the group of teams who are going for Champions League football next season. Arsenal losing last night meant that maybe Newcastle have just started to put a little bit of pressure on them in terms of finishing in second place. But the gap to Manchester City is 3 points. Newcastle got the draw today. They're now level on points and goal difference with Chelsea, play each other next week. Then it's Forest against Villa. And then remember, Forest and Chelsea play each other on the final day of the season. So there's still a lot to be decided. And obviously, the Opta supercomputer can't factor in emotions, and it can't factor in the fact that there are human beings involved in all of this. Having said that, what do you think?
I think the momentum is obviously huge. We all talk about it as sportsmen, footballers, whatever it is. And Nottingham Forest would be the team now that you just start to fear about, because the performance against Brentford was a difficult one for them to take. They looked a little bit edgy. I was at the game. They've got to get 3 points tomorrow on Monday Night Football. That's vitally important, just to put the pressure on everybody else. And then their fixtures, I just looked to that one, and Chelsea at home last day of the season. And I think right now Nottingham Forest would take their chances and go, if we can get to that home advantage against them to try and get into that top 5. Aston Villa obviously got it all to do. They're going to be relying on other teams, maybe dropping points. But this is a pressurised part of the season. You need a little bit of luck. Chelsea got their little bit of luck today to a certain extent. When you see that team sheet and you see no Gravenberch, you see no McAllister, no Soboslai, no Konate, you're thinking, we've got a real chance here today. That's the difference. You need a little bit of luck in how the fixtures are, maybe playing a Tottenham, if they've got a big cup game, Man United, you need things to go your way. But right now, Chelsea feel like they've got that momentum, got a bit of form back, and Nottingham Forest at the moment, you'd have to fear for them a little bit.
Except that they do have the City Ground, which, as you mentioned, is the venue for the last game of the season against Chelsea. They've used that before in recent history to try and keep themselves in the Premier League. Can they use it again to try and get themselves into the Champions League?
Yeah, they've obviously come
places?
off it recently, but I think if you looked at Forest and you spoke to the Forest players, you said, would you took this as the start of the season? They would have been delighted. Sure. They've had a difficult few weeks, and again, we go back to Forest, the way they play. The first goal is huge for them in every game. If they get it, you think they can sit in, but every time they give up a goal, the first goal, don't look like they can win a game. So, yeah, I think if you said Forest and Chelsea at the end of the season, maybe winner takes all. You look at Villa, where they are at the moment. Obviously, Villa have Spurs and United to play, and if Spurs and Villa are distracted by cups, United look like they'll never win another game in the league. So, yeah, it's interesting. And we talk about that big word, momentum, confidence, players off the bench, and Forest at the moment, you'd fear from, but big game from, is it tomorrow night? Yeah, big game from.
And with all of the fixtures in there are very few of them, Daniel, that you can look at and say, you know exactly which version of those teams are going to turn up in those games.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, you can see that there's a lot of head-to-heads for all the teams that are vying for those 5 spots. So I'm just really excited to see them get to work, because it's how they shape up tactically and how the managers will approach these games, given that, you know, some of them may take a point in some of the games, some of them will go for it. I think that last game that, you know, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest is going to be the one that is going to be the most interesting out of all of them, I would say, because that game, it's all to play for, literally. Winner takes all. That's the thing, that as a player, you want your destiny in your hands, and you know that as long as you take care of business, that you get to perform on the biggest stage. So it's down to the players to show up and show out.
At least part of the celebrations here at Stamford Bridge today with that win suggests that they think this is a huge game in terms of Champions League qualification. Do you think that it's a big 3 points for Chelsea that can take them into the Champions League next season?
Well, they found some confidence and it felt a little bit more connection with the fans. I think when Chelsea play at their best, there's a bit more energy about them. When they played against Tottenham, they were excellent. I think when they're passive and they play out from the back, I don't think the fans connect with it. They don't want to see it. They want to see the football a bit further forward with their better players getting on the ball. I felt that like Levi Colwill at times today when he was coming out of centre-back position, going into midfield, playing, and that was energy about it, and that set the tempo. I mean, they had to sit back. They didn't perhaps have the possession that they would normally expect, but that's because Liverpool came into the game. But you always knew on the break they could do something really different. So when you look at the whole title race is shaped with the top 5 title race is going to be so interesting because you need the right fixtures, you need things to go your way, you need a little bit of luck as well, and players in banging form. And I think that the fact how good Cole Palmer was today, that's going to have a massive impact in the rest of the season for them.
So Arsenal 7 points clear of 6th place with 9 to play for, 12 if you count Nottingham Forest. The rest of the teams all bunched up very nicely. So is it a bit early to call it for Chelsea yet in terms of where they finish?
No, but it just on the back of today's result, they'll obviously have belief. You see the feel-good factor amongst the players. There seems a good spirit amongst them, and you need your star players to step up at the crunch games. And obviously people like Palmer all of a sudden are turning up. You see Forest, 1 or 2 Forest players getting a bit tightening up when you see the finishing line, because that's the challenge for players all along when teams, particularly we have to look at Forest, they've been going along nicely, but then all of a sudden the expectation is that Champions League is there for you and it's right in front of them and they almost have it, and then you start slipping up and you lose that maybe confidence and belief. You look where Aston Villa, maybe somebody will win out on goal difference, but it's so hard to call, it's so tight. He asked me who I think is going to make it. No, and there probably will be some twists and turns over the next few weeks, and that's what makes it so exciting. See Villa win the weekend. I thought that was a really good game against Fulham. I really enjoyed that. They were up for it and they're trying to score goals and there's excitement. Next weekend it could be another twist, could be one bad decision, a mistake from a player, and before you know it, you're out of the Champions League. And any mistake now you're thinking next year will obviously cost you because you're running out of games. Yeah. Huge pressure.
Well, what Arne Slot has said today is that it's already a big summer because he's extended the contracts of Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk. But as Patrick asked him, what he's given a hint to is that he is talking about players coming in over the summer. Where do you think they need to strengthen, even though they've won the league by 15 points at this stage?
Yeah, but that will mean nothing at the start of next season. You know, the whole idea now for Liverpool is to kick on and back that up. You don't want the league title and go, that's it, and relax for a few years. That's what all the great teams do in the top team. So that's the next challenge for Liverpool. They've already obviously got a goalkeeper coming in. You're thinking maybe possibly a left back, a centre half. There's any injuries, of course, and potentially I would say a striker. But obviously you've got to go and get quality one. So I still think the manager will definitely be looking at strengthening, of course, but it's easier said than done. But done a great position. They've won the league. It'll be a big attraction to lots of players. He's a quality manager. Players who might be interested in coming to Liverpool will be looking at the top players already staying there and committing to the club. So that's all pluses. It's no a matter of going out and getting these quality players that will improve Liverpool, because I've said it many times before, win the league's fantastic. You've got to back it up again next year.
As Roy said, Mamardashvili's coming in the summer. That's already been agreed. Where else do you think that they need to strengthen, either in terms of their first choice or in terms of backup?
I think it's, they're certainly an attacker, for sure. I think a striker, Jota is been the main man, as long as Luis Diaz and Darwin, but I think that they probably do need another striker, potentially backup for Mo, a player who can learn from him and come in the squad on that right side. And then, of course, you've got to lock up Konate as well. I know that maybe we could talk about them potentially bringing in defensive help. We talked about at the start of the season whether they're going to bring in a defensive midfielder, and Gravenberch has stepped up, so whether they're still going to be thirsty for that, I'm unsure. But certainly I think signing Konate is very important because, his partnership with Virgil van Dijk's been key to the team's success. So tying him down to a contract, I think, is the next thing they need to do imminently, because we've seen the talk this season around the contracts, and Trent, Virg, Mo. We don't want that going on with Konate next season. So I think that's an important signing for the football club to have that consistency in defence. It's always good to have a partnership that you can rely on and trust, and have that triangle with the goalkeeper. So I think that's an important signing for them.
The name that keeps being linked with Liverpool and won't go away is Kirkez from Bournemouth. If that is a signing that happens, is it somebody who comes in and plays instead of Andy Robertson, or who shadows him throughout the season and learns from him in the way that Daniel's suggesting that somebody could come in and do that with Mohamed Salah?
I certainly wouldn't write off Andy Robertson just yet. He's still a top player, great professional. I would make sure that I keep him, even if you do bring in Kirkes, and have a little bit of competition. There's no problem with that. Kirkes has been amazing for Bournemouth. I've watched him since he first come in. He's aggressive. He's like a younger version, and that's going to be the key. I'm sure that Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards will be looking, who can we now bring in? Because you've also got to think, although it's great news that Mohamed Salah signed and Virgil van Dijk, it's 2-year contracts. How can we find the next ones? How can we find the next commanding young centre-back? How can we find the next Mohamed Salah? That's not going to be easy, because replacing them, they're fundamental, they're so important for this team, but they are players that you've got to look to do. Ekitike's had a mention for Liverpool, a player that, as a striker. It hasn't worked out for Darwin Núñez. I felt really positive about when he first signed. That might be a player that we might see that surplus requirements at some point, and then they bring in another striker in his place. But it doesn't need major surgery. He just won the title.
And isn't it nice to be able to sit and talk about it rather than have to go and find those next stars of the future?